Welcome to North Germany and the coast of the North Sea. We are at a very historic lighthouse called the Overeversand in the Wattenmeer National Park. And this is a very unique and cool looking structure. And we're gonna try and get a couple of good photos here right now. And it all starts right now. Let's go. So as is always the case with landscape photography, we are in a race against the sun as it heads down towards the horizon. We're getting a bit of a haze off in the distance. So I want to work relatively quick for this video, which is probably a good thing being YouTube. And the first shot is very simple. I'm just squaring up the subject right in the middle of the frame and creating a silhouette, shooting at f14. I was kind of hoping to get a sun star, but that haze is kind of ruling out that possibility. And it's still looking pretty cool though. So this is the first tip for shooting a lighthouse. Is just, focus on the subject, and if you've got good light in the background, you can place the sun behind the subject and then silhouette that shot to really get the detail out of the lighthouse. And in this case, with like the staircase and the fact that it's like 35 meters above the sea floor, makes it really, really cool and unique to photographs. All right, our second location here is on the ground, utilizing some foreground interest for the lighthouse in the background there. So the next tip is to try and go wide if you can, depending on how wide of a lens you have. 16 or 12, in this case, the 12-24 might actually be too wide, and you might get a little bit of a warping of the lighthouse in the background. So my suggestion would actually be to zoom in a little bit to about 20 mil or 24. So this lens here, I've got it at 24 mil right now, and got some nice foreground interest of these flowers, with then of course the lighthouse being the main subject in the background. And our clouds are looking really cool right now. It is very hazy, but we're getting some nice movement and really good dramatic clouds. So I can't go wrong with that. And I think the final result here is going to look really cool. I'm doing a relatively complicated setup. I'm 3-shot bracketing and focus stacking. So I'm bracketing for the foreground, midground, background, and then I'll HDR merge those in Lightroom, and then take those 3 final results and actually focus stack those in Photoshop to hopefully come out with a nice second image here in the video. All right, our third spot here and the third tip for photographing a lighthouse is straight on. This is probably the most obvious, and because it's a great composition, really. The only, I guess, complaint that I have in this case is that the sun is not really lined up well in the composition. You've still got it here in the shot, but it's really off to the left-hand side of the frame and kind of unbalanced. But if I crop it out in post, I can really focus on the actual composition of the, the bridge leading towards the main subject. And you've got that perfect leading line, you've got that 1-point perspective, and everything leads to the main subject, which is the third tip. It's sometimes that simple with photography. You got a very, very nice photograph here as the sun is about to go below the horizon. We got this beautiful grass and getting like little tufts of like white. It looks like wheat, but you got this amazing green foreground. And then of course the background, clouds catching beautiful light, and the subject of the lighthouse. So my point here is that the tip is kind of scan your surroundings when you're looking at the lighthouse. Go to both sides of where it is and see what you can find that draws your attention. And if the light's hitting and it looks good, just stop and take the photo, because I was off this way into the mud to try and find a cool reflection, which I still think I'm going to get in this video, so stay tuned for that. But I caught my eye, the sun was about to go down, and I'm like, that's the postcard right there, man. Like, you see it. You guys know, I know you're landscape photographers watching this. Sometimes you just see the shot and you're like, that's the one I want to get. So I stopped here, set up the camera real quick again, got a couple beautiful postcard snaps just like this. It's almost too perfect. F11, what am I, 1/13 of a second. I've got a 0.9 3-stop soft grad on the front. And yeah, snapping away. Beautiful. This is what it's all about. It's absolutely perfect. I've made it down to the mud. This is the location that I actually thought about as soon as I arrived, because we knew it was going to be low tide. And look at these reflections. This is the first time since Bolivia that I've been reminded of the salt flats, because this is just absolutely perfect. We've got beautiful conditions, no wind. It's like 28 degrees in North Germany, which is kind of crazy hot. And obviously you've got this beautiful subject of the lighthouse. So my next tip is, if you can, get onto the coast near the lighthouse and use the sea or the water in the frame, because you're bound to get like either rough seas, which is going to create really interesting seascape photography within the lighthouse in the background, or you're going to get a situation like this where you've got perfect pools that create just incredible reflections. And this is sort of the low-hanging fruit. Some would say, it's pretty easy and obvious, but the results are just phenomenal. So I put the 12 to 24 back on, and I'm shooting super wide open, very low to the ground, and just getting an awesome photo. So really well balanced, perfect symmetry, great cloud formations, a nice little bit of red light. The sun has now gone down, but just an awesome result. So couldn't be much happier with this photo. All right, guys, the sun has now gone below the horizon, so it's time for us to say goodbye. Big shout out to Oliver Preuss, photographer from Hamburg, joined me on this expedition. Both of us were like, man, let's get out of the city. And both of us have wanted to shoot this for a while. You've never been here, right? I don't think so, yeah. So first time for both of us here. We got some awesome shots. So final tips for you guys as part of this video. With a lighthouse, you've got an awesome subject no matter what. It's gonna look really cool. I'm sure you probably have an idea of the lighthouse that you want to photograph already. So the tips that I've got are, give yourself enough time, more than like an hour and a half that we had tonight, to scout the location, figure out where you want to shoot the lighthouse from. The off-access shot, like what you're seeing behind me with the bridge, leading towards the lighthouse, is always going to be a really good angle, especially if the sun is behind the lighthouse. Then you can silhouette it like I did at the beginning, and try and get a sun star if you can. And then obviously the next sort of glaring shot is the path leading straight towards it. If you situate yourself right in the middle of the sea bridge or of the way leading towards the lighthouse, you can get a nice leading line and some nice balance and symmetry in the shot. Then I think the low-hanging fruit, and probably the most obvious one, and the one that I wanted to shoot right away, are the reflections here in the mud. So if you've got like a seascape near your lighthouse, you can get some really dramatic waves and use that as your foreground interest. And here, of course, reflections. If you've got some nice calm pools, you can get some great reflection photos, with the subject being the lighthouse in the background. And then we got really lucky here with some really nice foreground interest of those flowers. So when the sun was still up, I took advantage of that and tried to get some nice focus stacked and HDR blended bracketed images to try and create a nice example of utilizing foreground interest, and then having, of course, the lighthouse in the background. Excuse me. And then my final tip is just take advantage of the scene. If you see a nice photo and it catches your eye and you think that's the one that I want to get, just stop and capture that photo, because I think possibly my favorite shot from this whole shoot was the one where I was kind of traversing from the lighthouse to the mud and just stopped and said, okay, the sun's about to go down. This is too good not to shoot. It looks absolutely perfect. Got a couple snapshots of that, and I think those are going to turn out really cool. So that is the end of this video. As always, thanks for watching. Big cheers from here in North Germany. It's a beautiful summer here right now, so I hope you guys are enjoying your summer back home, or your winter if you're in the Southern Hemisphere, and I will catch you on the next video.